I did want to react to this recent Breaking Points interview of Andrew Yang. As you guys know, we've been following Andrew Yang's plan to start a new third party, which we've expounded on pretty substantively over the past month or so in the form of a few videos. So check those out if you haven't seen them. We've definitely broken down this idea and why it's pretty dumb coming from Andrew Yang. Even though we generally do support third-party movements, and I'm a third-party voter, Andrew Yang is, certified grifter, total coward. So, I have no interest in his, book promotional publicity stunt third-party effort. But that being said, Krystal seems to take the guy still a little bit more seriously than I do, and they actually did a really good interview. This is the second time, actually, Krystal has, pretty ruthlessly grilled Andrew Yang, in my opinion, on some of these issues. The first being, of course, that infamous Krystal Kyle interview where they confronted him and grilled him over his disgusting stance on BDS. So, that was an amazing interview. We reacted to that at the time. And again, since then, they've continued to maintain some sort of relationship seemingly. But this was a full hour-long interview. Really interesting conversation. I think Krystal did a really good job for the most part. And I just wanted to, highlight some of this because she actually asks Yang about, exactly how he plans logistically to pull off this third party and what it would look like. So I think it's interesting the way he responds in general to all of these questions, but specifically this one. And I just want to get your reaction, Zach, and talk a little bit about this. Do you have anything to say before we jump in? But yeah, Yang is certainly trying his hardest to stay in the news, to make sure the attention doesn't leave him. He wants to stay relevant, and of course, that is coming in the form of his new book and political party, which both share the same name, Forward. So, let's take a look at this again. I thought this was pretty interesting.
So lay out for me what the plan is. What are you thinking of in terms of the midterms? Will you be fielding candidates? Will you be pushing for ballot access? Just talk me through sort of the plan of what this looks like in the near term.
I love it because this is another misconception, Krystal. Again, we're smart, we're practical, we want to get great stuff done. The pillars of the Forward Party start with open primaries and ranked choice voting, so someone needs to be for those things. But they also include things I think a lot of your listeners are huge supporters of, like universal basic income, human-centered economy.
By the way, it's human-centered capitalism. That's what he usually calls it. But since he's talking to a leftist in Crystal Ball, he calls it human-centered economy, because he knows how fucking cringy human-centered capitalist sounds to anyone that has any actual leftist values or beliefs. But I just thought that was interesting.
Yeah, let me jump in on that too. This is exactly what they push every single fucking business student in the world. Human-centered capitalism, human-centered design. It's all fucking horseshit. And I'm going to go off about it in a long rant about it once this is over.
Fact-based governance.
Fact-based governance. What the fuck does that even mean? I'm sorry, but that is literally the vaguest combination of words you could possibly put together. How are you going to be like, I'm an anti-partisan, I'm above the fray, but then you literally resort to the same fucking dead, dumb, cliche verbiage to describe your ambitions and political philosophy as every other politician to ever run for anything. Fact-based governance. What the fuck does that mean, Andrew?
Hey, at least you can eat his word salad for lunch.
Also, is it just me, or does he seem kind of defeated? Like he just knows this is all a sham? I know. He just looks like he's tired and needs to go home or something. Like, bro, you need to stop embarrassing yourself.
Modern and effective government. And this is something that you really have to stand up for, which is
modern and effective government as opposed to antiquated and ineffective government. Yeah. Great. Really bold stance taken there.
Talking these arguments.
What was it?
I thought he's been listening to Matthew McConaughey.
Honestly, though, yeah, it's the same drivel, honestly.
Passing relief when only 17% of it gets to people is a moral failure. Like, someone should be held accountable for that. But we actually aren't paying attention to whether the pipes work. It's just, oh, I stood up, I did something, and then we go home while people are left wondering why the system's not working. And the last pillar is grace and tolerance, which is, to me, one of the things that's necessary to try and bring the country back together. Like we're getting set up to attack each other. We're getting set up to regard our fellow Americans as mortal enemies. and it's a recipe for disaster. So if someone is for these 6 pillars and they're running as a Democrat in a primary or running as a Republican in a primary, let's get behind them. You don't need to run as Forward Party. We're going to.
So again, he's really not starting a political party. He's basically just continuing on his what was it called, Humanity Forward organization, which was already endorsing candidates across the political spectrum. I think they endorsed a few independents as well. I don't know if they did any Republicans, but mostly Democrats and some independent candidates that were like Yang and type Democrats or whatever the fuck. That was what Humanity Forward was about. Now he just dropped the humanity part, is just calling it Forward, and is purporting for it to be a new political party when it's literally not. It's just another way for him to make money and stay in the spotlight and continue to endorse candidates, even though at this point, is Andrew Yang's endorsement really even worth anything if you're a candidate in any race? Like, this guy is a perennial loser. He embarrassed himself multiple times. Why the fuck would anyone even want this guy's endorsement? I mean, I guess it wouldn't hurt, but like, it's not like some coveted fucking artifact at this point. Who gives a shit? So really, he's doing nothing else. He's just dressing it up in this more sensationalized language of, oh, I'm starting this third party revolutionary effort, when really he's just continuing on what he already was doing with Humanity Forward, which was already massively ineffective, like everything this man has ever done or touched. So yeah, total fake.
But what I think you're misunderstanding here, Gavin, is that what we've got to have is values. Values, Gavin. And once we have those values, let's love one another. Let's respect each other and ourselves. Let's communicate. Let's build bridges and not walls. Like, it sounds exactly like that horseshit Matthew McConaughey spiel that he was giving us from literally the guy that we said was the worst politician we could fucking imagine. Like, going from being one of the greats of his generation as an actor, 100%. I remember the McConaissance, right? This dude is a dog shit politician. Andrew Yang sounds literally less inspiring than him right now. He sounds completely fake, deflated, just like it's honestly embarrassing for him to be out here like this. He should have just fucking crawled away to his hole, kept his little commentary gig or contribution gig on CNN. He's obviously already rich as fuck, but his ego is just so big and maniacal that he can't imagine a smaller path. He has to like build it bigger. He has to become part of the conversation. He has to maintain his relevance, and it's just making him look worse and worse and worse, and less people are taking him seriously as a result.
Yeah, absolutely. Just to address a few super chats. Thank you, Decent Federalism Project, for the $2. Human-centered capitalism puts capital over people. 100%. I mean, that's capitalism. You can put whatever fucking bullshit qualifier in front of the word capitalism that you want, but it's still capitalism, and it's literally in the name. Capitalism. Capital is first and foremost. That's literally what the word capitalism means. There is no human-centered capitalism. That would be humanism if that was a thing. Capitalism is putting capital above anything else, including people. So 100%.
A group that just supports people who are for these principles. And simultaneously, we will be activating voters to pass these ballot initiatives to try and implement open primaries and ranked choice voting in states around the country.
Gotcha. So this sounds a little bit like the DSA model, in that they'll back candidates who are running on the Democratic Party line. They also do field candidates who run, outright as DSA candidates, but they've focused electorally and had some success that way in backing candidates who are running as Democrats but support their shared values. Is that kind of like the realm of what you're thinking in?
Yes, because again, we're smart and impact driven, and in a lot of these locations, it is impossible to run as anything other than a Democrat and Republican. So we're going to support people who are aligned, regardless of what letters next to their name.
So one other thing I wanted to ask you about is you talk in the book quite a lot about—
I just want to point out that that's him saying that they're not going to fucking do anything. That's him saying, oh, no, we're not doing a goddamn thing. I am just going to give my endorsement and maybe a couple of people that I hired to have on my staff, or, my board of advisors, or if I'm feeling a little like fucking trendy, like I want to go back on the Joe Rogan podcast, I'll name it like a tribe of elders. And then that'll be our fucking, people who give out our endorsements, and that'll be our new third party. And it's such a cop out, and it's not even really a third party, right? He's calling it a third party, but it's really not. It's kind of, and it's going to be like a more hollowed out version of the DSA. Like, the DSA actually has real members. Like, they do run real candidates. Like, Krystal was being charitable to him when she was trying to describe it like that. Basically, what she was doing is she was trying to give somebody like, the people an opportunity to be like, oh, he's full of shit right now. He's not actually going to, do the ground, the back-breaking work of building the channels to actually elect candidates. No, he's just going to be like, oh, I'm gonna he literally said Democrats and Republicans, guys. So he's not interested in overthrowing the oligarchy at all. He never has been. He's always been a fan of reforming and making it much more palatable to the elites, so they don't have to recognize and grapple with the suffering that they're imposing on the rest of the world. But we'll get into that more later. I just wanted to point how fucking dumb this is, that literally the dude's just confessing the fact that he's just going to hawk his endorsement for mucking attention.
Yeah, and obviously we have some criticisms of the DSA here, but the work that the DSA has gotten done, or the candidates they have gotten elected, especially in New York City, that came off of a massive wave of support coming from the Bernie Sanders 2016 and 2020 campaigns, which really invigorated the Democratic Socialists of America as an organization, really increased their numbers and like tenfold, literally before Bernie Sanders, DSA was nothing. So the reason why DSA was able to be as successful as they were was because of that movement that was residual from the Bernie campaign. Andrew Yang is coming off of 2 failed campaigns that, the Yang Gang was, I guess, a little bit of a political movement, but that fizzled out after his presidential run. Now, whatever Yang Gangers there are left are certainly not going to be enough to propel a DSA style movement and actually get anyone into office. So, if I were Krystal, I would have basically asked, how is this any fucking different than Humanity Forward, which again is what he was already doing before this, and which seemingly had the same tactics and goals as the Forward Party, which again is basically just endorsing candidates that Andrew Yang likes that adhere to the 6 planks, only one of which is an actual policy position, UBI. The other ones are vague platitudes and bullshit like race and tolerance. And I mean, you could pick like a good handful of people that are already elected to various offices in this country and be like, they fit most of these planks, modern governance, race and tolerance, fact-based economy, like all this stupid bullshit that applies to anyone. Literally the only policy you're actually running on still is UBI. And again, that's what Humanity Forward is doing, endorsing candidates that Andrew Yang liked and that were in favor of UBI. So he's basically doing nothing else here than trying to whip up sales for his shitty new book, because he knows that otherwise no one will read it. But yeah, that's just what's happening.
Pretty pathetic.